What's going on, everybody? I'm back again with another video, and I'm in one of the nicest neighborhoods in Queens, New York, which is Forest Hills. I've been here a few times, and every time I come here, it's pretty nice. You know, they got beautiful residential houses, beautiful architecture, nice apartments like this, and beautiful tree-lined streets. So I'm gonna be walking around the neighborhood, you know, for some of the residential streets and the main streets. So without further ado, join me. I'm starting my way by 108th Street, which is right here. And years ago, I walked this street all the way to another neighborhood towards Corona, Queens. I walk it all the way towards the end onto the waterfront, and you can see how it does drastic changes. But here you see how nice it is, you know, a lot of trees. If I merge to my right, it's gonna be beautiful houses, but we're gonna get there in a bit later. Right now, I'm gonna walk in the area where they got the apartment complex. Queens have a lot of neighborhoods that give you like that suburb feel. And this is one of those neighborhoods that makes you feel like if you're not in New York City. This neighborhood, the neighboring neighborhood, which is Kew Gardens, also has like that vibe. Over here, you can see how this side is made of apartment complex. But then towards my right, if you go over there, it's just gonna be houses, residential houses. But I think I'm gonna make it towards either Jewel Avenue or 69th Street and merge into a street that's gonna be curvy, and it should take me towards a local park. This neighborhood never ceases to amaze me. And this is not even the nicer part. The nicest part is gonna be when I cross the other side of Queens Boulevard. You're gonna see some really impressive architecture by the Long Island Railroad train station. But yeah, this is probably, like I said, one of the best neighborhoods out here in Queens. So you can see how nice and impeccable the neighborhood is. And some of the residential units are pretty beautiful too, with the entrance and everything. Now I'm gonna pass by a little street over here that's called Yellowstone Road, and pass by a local park that's called Yellowstone Park. But like I say, even the areas where they got the high apartments are pretty well preserved and well kept. Just look at the sidewalk, like each and every single block in Forest Hills. It's pretty nice. But also explains to you, you know, the contrast of these neighborhoods with other neighborhoods out in New York City, the difference, you know. I guess where people have more dinero, money, that's what they do to keep the neighborhood nice like this. And ahead of me is Yellowstone Road. I don't think I walked this road over here. So I'm just doing a detour to see what's going on. I always focus more on the other side of Queens Boulevard. Like I say, this section is just filled with a lot of apartments. But like I say, even if you come to different neighborhoods, you gotta come multiple times because you can't really cover it all. And I did the design of this apartment. Some of these buildings make me feel like if I'm in one of those cities in Europe, either Amsterdam or London. Like, look at this building over here. I like how they preserve the entrance pretty well and how it's labeled, you know, with the numbers of the apartments. And across the street, they got more apartments too, so. And of course, the streets, you know, are pretty nice and well labeled, so. But yeah, it feels like you just enter like another world right here, so. But I see the traffic jamming in a neighborhood like this. That's why I'd rather walk or ride my bike or take public transportation, you know. This neighborhood is served by the E train, the F train. I think more train lines, but if you take the E train is literally express. So maybe like 25, 30 minutes you'll be in Midtown Manhattan, depending where you want to go, you know. But yeah, it goes pretty fast, so it didn't take me that long to get out here. Ahead of me should be the local park. One of my main reasons for going through this local park, not only to see how they look like, but it's also because they have a public restroom. And you know, finding a public restroom in neighborhoods like this is hard, so sometimes I go, you know, go do what I gotta do, and then I continue doing my videos. But then look how they maintain, you know, the yards, and then I'll give you like a 360 view of the neighborhood out here, or the streets. And of course, traffic jam, but it's all apartment complex. I'm in the tiny local park here. They got a playground, basketball court over here. Then it literally goes up the hill and a little bit of nature out here. Here you can see, you know, nothing crazy, but I like how it's surrounded by trees and stuff. And then of course, apartment buildings out here. I think the other side would take me to 108th Street. Then like any other park in the area they got where you can play checkers or chess. So as tiny as the park is, they do a good job to preserve vegetation. So that's pretty nice. And then they got the benches here where you can sit down. And then once you exit, it's mostly a residential area out here, so. And then 108th Street is right there, so I'll probably do a couple of blocks and then merge more towards my left to show you the nice houses that they got going on here. Then back in action, you see how nice they preserve, you know, the entrance to these apartments. So this apartments over here, they're pretty different from many other neighborhoods around New York City, you know. I think if I merge into 70, I'm gonna merge into 67 Road to see what are the vibes over that way. And then the good thing, even in a street like this that looks suburban, they got bus stops and you can take the bus. So that's one of the beautiful things about New York, that, you know, you can take public transportation anywhere and it connects you anywhere you gotta go, no matter what. But now I'm gonna merge into this next street to see what are the vibes. Pretty sure they got some beautiful looking houses over here, you know. It's been a minute since I walked 108th Street, you know. But good to see what's going on over here, you know. It's pretty interesting. Then this over here is 67 Road. The other one next is 67 Drive. So you just gotta read the name of the streets that you're walking. Love how blue the sky is and the houses are just gorgeous and beautiful. Wow, look at this one. Pretty nice. Like it feels like if you're somewhere else. Like I said, like outside New York City. But this is New York City and the sidewalks, you can see how clean and impeccable they are. Look at this house, wow. So nice. And this one over here is gorgeous. Like a fairy tale walking throughout this neighborhoods, you know. And like I say, September, for me, in my opinion, I think it's the best month to come here to New York City because the weather is just perfect, not hot, not cold. You know, even though I love the summers, but the heat can be a little bit uncomfortable for you to walk. But this is it here, see? Look at the beautiful houses that we got going on. And I think ahead of me is the high school, Forest Hills High School, which is going some renovations. It's also giving me a semi-vibe of Bay Ridge in Brooklyn, New York, where, you know, I filmed that neighborhood in the previous videos ahead, and they have houses like this are pretty gorgeous. And this is Forest Hills High School, and they're renovating the school. But the structure of the building is actually beautiful. Now here I'm gonna walk 110th Street, walking, you know, all the way towards the other side of the neighborhood to see what's going on, and pretty much towards 72nd Road, I think it is. But this is looking pretty beautiful over here. And look at these houses over here. It's kind of reminding me when I was exploring the neighborhood of Boulevard in Queens. Then I like this house in the corner. It looks actually pretty beautiful, wow. Let me see if I cross the street to show you what it looks like. Years ago, I walked this neighborhood all the way towards the back area of Flushing, Meadows Park, and I entered another neighborhood. I think it was by Forest Hills Gardens or something. It's on the other side, and it's also like a pretty nice, beautiful neighborhood out here. They're renovating this house. Wow, look how big it is. So actually the name of the other neighborhood I explored was Kew Garden Hills, which is also like a pretty residential area, and it has really like that suburb feel. It's on the other side of the park. See how nice it is? And the thing is that this is nothing. Like this neighborhood is actually pretty big, and we still got a lot more to explore. Got to make it to the main street of Austin Street, and I got to make it by the train station. In that area, they got some really gorgeous houses, even though the area is a little bit more private than this one. Wow, look at this house, how gorgeous it is. I'm gonna walk the street because it takes me straight to Queens Boulevard. Once you hit the Queens Boulevard area, they got high-rise buildings, and then I'm gonna make it towards Austin Street, which is the main street in this neighborhood, to show you what's going on over there. They got beautiful shops and beautiful architecture. I tell you, this area over here, I wouldn't mind being a mailman or even like a bike delivery driver, because it's so nice over here and pleasant, you know, easy to bike around, and beautiful houses over here, especially, you know, during this time when the weather's actually pretty nice. You can see I'm literally just surrounded by trees out here. Oh wow, I can start seeing in these trees, they got like some type of fruits. I'm not sure what it is. Here you see this, look, it's just vegetation and trees. Like it gives a life. I know probably in a couple of weeks it's gonna start turning orange or yellow because the fall season is about to come. And then in the winter, unfortunately, no leaves. So you see just mostly nice houses. And we're gonna walk straight towards Queens Boulevard. And this area over here starts turning into apartments, like over here. And the good thing is that they got their own parking. So if you have a car, you know, you could park over here without having to worry where you're gonna find parking. And of course the sidewalk is pretty nice, clean. Got more residential units. Then by Queens Boulevard is a super tall building, which is probably the tallest building in this neighborhood out here. You can see the regular street, what it looks like. and the sun hitting right in the middle of the grid. But yeah, it never stops to amaze me, Forest Hills. So you literally have it all in this neighborhood, from nice houses, and then when you go to Austin Street, you're gonna see a lot of nice looking restaurants and coffee shops. And here we are approaching Queens Boulevard. And here you see what I call the tallest building in the area. Queens Boulevard, you know, it's a pretty busy highway that goes, you know, all the way towards Long Island City, and I think it past Jamaica, Queens. And then it has a bike lane too that you can bike pretty comfortable. There's also a church in the other side, so I'm gonna cross the street over that way so I can walk towards Austin Street. And this is the tallest building out in the neighborhood of Forest Hills. And get enough of this weather, you know, perfection, not hot, not cold, not humid. It makes it pleasant for you to walk. And Queens Boulevard, 72 Drive is right there, so I'm gonna merge into that street so I can walk Austin Street. Here's a beautiful church that we got here. Our Lady, Queen of, can't read it over here. Roman Catholic Church. A beautiful structural building over here. So it's like a contrast of architecture, you know, the beautiful church, and then I'm in busy Queens Boulevard, and then lots of apartment complex and high-rise building, but now I'm gonna start making it into the main street to see what are the vibes over there. Even over here, you see some nice looking buildings. Like I told you, there's so much to see out in New York. Here you got these buildings, and then look how wide the sidewalk is, and we're gonna walk towards that area. And like I say, you don't see no type of trash over here. For people saying that New York is dirty, obviously it depends what neighborhood you go. Keep in mind that this is a massive city, but this neighborhood is really clean. They got tons of different neighborhoods in New York City, even in Manhattan, where it could be clean. They got like this apartments over here with architecture. They're pretty nice. If you go towards the other side, it's gonna get nicer, but we'll make it there in a bit once I explore a little bit of Austin Street. I tell you, it feels like if I'm somewhere else, like in another world. Like I tell you, but this is why I love coming out here to the city. And now let's walk Austin Street, which is also beautiful. Once I hit a big intersection, you're gonna see the architecture, how it looks like. And this is it right here. Years ago, I covered Austin Street all the way from Kew Gardens to Forest Hills. So now here we merge towards the right. This is still part of the church, the back area. This is a little bit like a school. And a little bit ahead is gonna get busy with shops. There's actually a supermarket across the street, SS Natural. Fruits and vegetables, banks, you know. The sun is kind of blocking, but it looks nice. And then here's gonna get nicer and busier. And then even in neighborhoods like this, it got scaffolding. Good thing they label the name of the shops in the scaffolding, so that way you know if you're trying to go to one of these establishments, you know which one it is. So it's like an old residential unit, but then in the first floor, they got the business going on. And today's a Monday, but you don't really see much people over here, you know. It's kind of peaceful. I remember the first time I came, it was a lot of people, so times has changed. But maybe if I go by the intersection, there's probably gonna be more activity going on. And here you see, it's pretty nice. Austin Street Pizza right here. I like the architecture of the building. And you can walk over here too, and you see the new tall buildings that they pop up in the back. And here there's more shops over here. Then if you go ahead, it's mostly like establishments that you get in any other place in the malls, like Sephora right here, Shake Shack. Yeah, then I think this is like another busy street to my right. But I think one more block ahead is where they got the busy intersection going on. So I noticed they got a lot of pastry joints out here, and even like little local business, tacos, donuts, coffee shops, you know. So you literally got everything without having to get out of the neighborhood, you know. So it has it all. It's literally like its own, it could be like its own township, you know, but it's just a neighborhood in Queens. Well, here's a busy intersection, 71st and Continental Avenue with Austin Street. If you go towards the other side, you're gonna get a nice shot of where I'm standing right now. So I'm gonna cross the street to show you guys what I'm talking about. So a 360 view of the intersection that we got going on over here. There used to be a Boston market, so I guess they took it away. And then over here is a Cohans over here. So, but I like the way how they got the architecture here. It's just pretty beautiful. This is a little bit of 71st Continental. They got a couple of street food. I'm gonna turn back, but I just want to show you this over here that takes you to Queens Boulevard. They got a bagel joint right here, you know. Even a Five Below's here, which is like a department store that sells a little bit of everything for an affordable price. Then over here, they're renovating this building over here that looks pretty nice. But yeah, then they got Dunkin' Donuts over here in the corner, and back to where I came. I think where that 5 Below is, which is right here, it seems like it used to be like a theater. The way out the building is labeled and set up, so you see a lot of places that I go where it used to be theaters, they literally turn it into big department stores. So, but it's pretty nice that they preserve the architecture, you know. So this is one of the nicest intersections. Look at this, I like that building in the corner. It's pretty beautiful. Then also street keeps going over this side. But like I said many times, it's mostly just chain stores that you could get anywhere in other neighborhoods or in the malls too. But still pretty nice to look at, you know, you have an idea what's going on over here. So you can see how different the vibe is over here from where I started my video. I'm gonna make it by Long Island train station to show you what's going on in Forest Hills, Long Island Railroad. And over there it's gonna feel like if you're in Europe, but then the houses there are actually gorgeous. So I'm gonna walk and probably merge into other streets to show you what's going on, and then we just wrap up the video in this amazing neighborhood of Forest Hills in Queens. And over here, this is the train station right here, but once you go on the other side, it's like if you literally just enter another universe. But it's actually the same neighborhood. And if you keep going straight, the street is nice too, but I'm gonna get there later. I'm gonna show you the drastic change that we're gonna experience right now. And then, ta-da, look at this gorgeousness right here. Too bad they're renovating the building, Jesus. But still, see, they got the cobblestones and everything, pretty nice out here. Looks like a university. This is the Forest Hills train station of Long Island Railroad. If you want to take the Long Island Railroad, it comes here. Then the subway stations are by Queens Boulevard. And this is the area that makes it feel like if you're in Europe, you know, with the cobblestones and everything. Then if you go with that way, they got some beautiful houses that are kind of semi-private, but I'm going to try to make my way around one of them. Some of those streets, they detour into the other side of Continental Road. So let's explore a little bit over here so I can show you how beautiful this section is. And over here, it feels like I'm in Europe. Like, just look at this architecture over here. And look at the building across the street. And all of this is like literally surrounded by trees, you know. And they got some private like streets over there with beautiful houses. They're renovating the middle here, but I'm gonna walk a little bit more to show you what's going on. Here, look at these houses over here, wow. Pretty gorgeous, you know, and residential. Even the signs are beautiful, look at it. Stop, Greenway, Terrace, and Middleway. Then look at this over here, how beautiful it is. Tell you, this area is actually even nicer than where I started my video. The houses and everything. It seems like they renovated the streets, they paved the roads. They're pretty nice and smooth, you know. Wow, but the streets are just plain gorgeous. Look at the house, look at the road, look how nice it is. Like, it feels like you just entered another world. It's actually the same neighborhood I was filming in the beginning. When you walk over here, I'll make my right. Yeah, I think they literally paved this road. And if you go to the other side, it's beautiful, literally walking under a tunnel of trees. Look at this house, wow. And then look at the streets. See, all full with trees. I know in the fall season, it's gonna be a nice neighborhood. Like I said, this is probably one of the nicest neighborhoods in Queens and probably entire New York City. Like, wow. Plain beauty over here. Look at this house. Surrounded by nature. I think this is like the furthest I walk. I never walk like a little bit further in this area. It's like kind of like private, but it's actually pretty nice. So here I see signs you can only park if you have a permit or if you're a resident over here. Other than that, it's gonna be towed at your expense. It says it in the signs over here. Then it keeps going. So I saw not really like a police, but like a patrol car. So I guess this area over here has like its own private, you know, patrol cars that be patrolling the area over here. So that's something really cool, you know. Look at this house over here. How big it is. This is a church, Episcopal church right here. It's actually gorgeous, and then more houses over that way. And to be honest, I think I like this neighborhood more than Boulevard, because it's more accessible to the train station and there's more happening and they got main streets. Like mall was a little bit isolated from everything, so. I'm gonna make a right towards Ascan Avenue, walk a couple of blocks, then make another right. That should take me back towards the main street that passes by the Long Island Railroad train station in Forest Hills. Here it is, so let's merge over this way. Wow, pretty much wider and two-side street. Would it be much cooler if I brought my bike with me, you know? But even over here, it's still beautiful to look at, you know, the houses, the trees, you know. Like I say, Forest Hills is big neighborhood and pretty nice. And they got the house here piled up behind all of this over here, and they do a good job to maintain it, you know. Also at the end of this area that I'm walking is a park that I covered also like 2 years ago called Forest Park, you know, and it's a nice park, a local park over here that goes over here, then it ends up on the other side of Queens, Woodhaven. So yeah, I think it's actually worth it for you to explore. And look how nice the street is over here towards my left. So yeah. You know, I love neighborhoods like this to explore and walk around. And look at this over here, nice. And then that street is Juno Street, or I think it's Juno Street. So I'm gonna make a right and walk back towards Continental Avenue. This wish that every neighborhood in New York, I'm not saying it has to look the same, but like they would get the same treatment, you know, even other neighborhoods are considered like sketchy or dangerous, like they would get the same treatment or keeping it nice and clean and doing something for the community, you know. And look at this. Look at the houses, how they are over here. Giving me a little vibe of Flatbush in Brooklyn. And the sunset falling down, you know. It's kind of like those neighborhoods that you would see in the movies. Really nice and gorgeous. And within a block ahead of me should be Continental Avenue. You can see how all the houses keep going. I just feel like the sun is kind of blocking me a little bit in this side, but look at the sidewalk, how it is. And then just look at the houses. Reminds me a little bit of that gingerbread house that I saw in Bay Ridge. That cost $8.7 million. And this is the other side of the street, how cute it is. And what I like about it, despite how it looks like, it's accessible, like it's not isolated. There's nothing, no barricade or anything that prevents you from coming in and walking. But it's highly secure, you know, there's people patrolling and making sure that the neighborhood, you know, it's maintained safe out here. I'm back again in Continental Avenue, which is the avenue that goes all the way to Austin Street and Queens Boulevard where they got the shops. But if you keep going all the way towards the park, it's actually pretty nice because it's pretty residential. They got beautiful tall trees and well-maintained front yards of the houses over here. So walking straight back, and the map, everything looks like it's smaller or close, but it's actually much bigger in real life than what you see in the map out here. So this is what you see in front of me. See how gorgeous the houses is. If you go in the other side, pretty much the same scenery, beautiful, you know, residential units and houses. So I walked here when I was gonna film the park of Forest Park. I walked during the fall season, and some of the streets that I filmed during the fall season when I was walking the street were gorgeous. Like the trees, you know, they lit up the streets with the orange and yellow color. You can believe it, because look, we're literally just surrounded by trees out here, so. But yeah, see, really good job they did with this neighborhood. And I like I say, not only that it's beautiful with houses, but the fact that it has it has trees all over, comparing to other residential units in other states, especially like in the West Coast, a lot of them, they have beautiful houses like this, but they lack of trees, like vegetation that can literally cover the entire streets like this. I'm walking over this side because they have Forest Hill Stadium, which is pretty big over here. They do a lot of concerts, especially in the summer. And I don't think I ever passed in front of the stadium, so I'm gonna walk over there to show you what's going on, and then we wrap up the video. I wanna do a video, you know, well done. And this street is gorgeous too. Jesus, I would say like 90% of the streets in Forest Hills are beautiful, impeccable, and worth to check out. Now we're from the block ahead of me. It should be where the stadium is. Make a left over here. It's crazy because a neighborhood like this, looking at the houses, you would not expect to see, what was it? You would not expect to see a stadium right here. But that's New York City, full of surprises. There's all the houses. Then we're gonna walk here and the stadium should be right in my right. So walk a little bit more forward and we'll see the outside area of it. Here it is, seems like they're renovating in the surrounding areas. I've seen people fly drones over here and you can see Midtown Manhattan from a distance, but yeah, this is what Forest Hill Stadium looks like. What a gorgeous and blessed day it's been today. Perfect weather, you know, nice and sunny, and a beautiful neighborhood out here. So that was the end of my video. I hope you guys enjoyed this video here in Forest Hills, Queens, New York. Stay tuned for more. Be safe out there. Everybody, God bless y'all, and peace.